Marcus Rivera sat in the cramped medical office in Denver, watching his wife Elena receive her ultrasound when Dr. Patricia Chen's composure cracked like thin ice. The doctor's hands trembled as she stared at the monitor, her 25 years of medical practice suddenly seeming inadequate for what she was witnessing. "Sir, you need to step outside and contact legal counsel immediately." "Doctor," Chen whispered, her voice barely audible above the humming equipment. Marcus, a 34-year-old Army Ranger fresh from a 9-month deployment in Iraq, felt his training kick in. Stay calm. Process information. React strategically. Elena lay on the examination table, blue gel cooling on her exposed belly. Confusion etched across her features, the same bewildered expression she'd worn frequently since his return 3 weeks ago. "Is our baby healthy?" Marcus asked, his voice maintaining military precision despite the chaos building in his chest. "The infant is developing normally, Doctor," Chen replied, wiping perspiration from her brow. She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. "However, the measurements indicate 34 weeks of gestation." The room fell silent except for the mechanical hum of medical devices. Elena continued smiling, maintaining her facade of normalcy, something she'd perfected since his homecoming. 34 weeks. Marcus calculated quickly. 34 weeks ago, he was boarding a military transport to Baghdad. 34 weeks ago, he was embracing Elena goodbye at Denver International Airport. 34 weeks ago, he was sleeping in military barracks halfway across the globe. Dr. Chen waited for his reaction, perhaps expecting rage or violence. Instead, Marcus processed the information like battlefield intelligence, compartmentalizing emotion from fact. "Marcus, why is everyone acting strange?" Elena's voice carried a new edge of panic beneath her confusion. He studied his wife of 5 years, really examined her. The constant phone checking since his return. Her insistence on scheduling this particular appointment when he could attend. The way she'd presented her pregnancy as a wonderful surprise, claiming she was only 12 weeks along. Elena had wanted him present for this revelation. She'd orchestrated this moment, planning to cement his belief that he was the father. Marcus had met Elena 7 years earlier at a friend's wedding in Boulder. She worked as a physical therapist and possessed an infectious laugh that could brighten any room. He'd been stationed at Fort Carson before transferring to Fort Bragg. She claimed she'd always admired military men, respected their sacrifice and dedication to service. Their wedding 3.5 years later was modest, a simple ceremony at her family's church. Throughout their marriage, he'd deployed twice on shorter missions. Elena had seemed to handle the separations well, sending care packages, writing heartfelt letters, maintaining their home with admirable independence. When this Iraq deployment began 9 months ago, she'd wept genuine tears at the airport. She'd promised to stay busy, mentioned taking art classes and renovating their garden. Marcus had felt fortunate to have such a devoted partner. The first month overseas, they'd video called regularly. She appeared exhausted and stressed about solitude, normal adjustment issues. By the second month, conversations shortened. She'd enrolled in evening painting classes at the local community center, claiming it helped manage anxiety. By month 3, communication had dwindled to brief text messages. "Busy day at work. Missing you. Everything's fine." Marcus assumed she was adapting, building independence, a necessary survival skill for military spouses. Upon his return 3 weeks ago, Elena seemed different. Nervous energy. Weight gain she attributed to stress-induced overeating. Looser clothing choices. Claims of persistent stomach issues, possibly a lingering flu. Then, last week, her announcement, "I discovered I was pregnant shortly after you left. I wanted to surprise you when you returned home. I'm about 12 weeks along." 12 weeks. He'd been home for over 2 weeks by then. She'd already scheduled today's ultrasound, insisting he accompany her for their first glimpse of our child. Now, watching his wife on that examination table, Marcus understood the mathematics didn't align. The timeline was fabricated. Everything was a carefully constructed deception. 34 weeks, he stated, more to himself than others. Dr. Chen nodded. Her earlier trembling subsided, but her desire to escape the situation remained evident. Sir, I must ask directly, were you present during conception? Elena's complexion drained of color. Not confused pallor, but the ashen tone of someone caught in a web of lies. Marcus, I don't understand what's happening, she said, but her voice had transformed. Less confusion, more desperation. Marcus stood slowly, maintaining military bearing. It means I was in Iraq when this child was conceived. Complete silence filled the room. That's impossible, Elena whispered, but she wasn't meeting his gaze anymore. She stared at the ceiling tiles while her hands began trembling. Dr. Chen cleared her throat. Ma'am, fetal measurements are conclusive. This represents a 34-week pregnancy. Conception occurred approximately 8.5 months ago. Marcus watched his wife's expression as reality crashed over her. Her carefully constructed narrative was disintegrating in real time. She'd miscalculated somewhere, lost track of her own deceptions. He was already thinking about other details. Their neighbor, David Martinez, who'd helped with yard maintenance during his absence. Elena had mentioned him during phone calls, fixed their fence, helped rearrange furniture. Such a helpful neighbor, she'd said. The increasingly brief phone conversations. Those evening art classes that seemed to run unusually late. Her insistence on this ultrasound appointment, wanting him present to witness this moment, to believe he was the father and commit to raising another man's child. Dr. Chen, Marcus said, I need complete documentation, measurements, images, the full report. Marcus, what are you doing? Elena's voice rose. You're frightening me. He looked at his wife. 5 years of marriage, 3 years of believing he knew her character, 9 months of sleeping alone in Iraq while she betrayed their vows. I'm gathering facts, he said, just like any successful mission requires. In her eyes, he saw the recognition that everything was finished. The drive home passed in tense silence. Elena filled the void with increasingly desperate explanations. Maybe they mixed up my file with someone else's. Medical errors happen constantly. Remember when they sent you those incorrect blood test results? Marcus focused on Denver traffic, ordinary people living ordinary lives while his world collapsed in the passenger seat. At home, he asked simply, How long have you been sleeping with David? The truth finally emerged. 7 months, nearly his entire deployment. A relationship that began as neighborly assistance and evolved into something that would destroy everything Marcus thought he knew about love, loyalty, and the woman he'd married. The divorce proceedings were swift and decisive. Military precision applied to legal matters. The evidence was overwhelming. Phone records, credit card statements, hotel receipts, medical documentation proving impossible timelines. Marcus kept the house briefly before selling it. Too many memories embedded in those walls. He bought a smaller place near the base, clean and unencumbered by history. Elena moved back to her parents in Oregon. David Martinez lost his contracting job when word spread through Denver's military-connected community. In a city where defense contractors and military families formed tight networks, his reputation was destroyed. Sometimes Marcus sat on his new back porch, contemplating alternate timelines. The version where he'd believed the deception, raised another man's child, never discovered the truth. That version of Marcus Rivera would have lived an entirely different existence built on lies. He preferred truth, even when it cut deep. Military training had taught him that accurate intelligence leads to better decisions, in warfare and in life. Elena's deception failed because she underestimated the power of simple mathematics and a soldier's commitment to facts over comfortable fictions. Sometimes the strongest response to betrayal is simply refusing to participate in someone else's lies.